Mr. Speaker, Jewish Americans are facing a tide of hate in this country that we thought could only be in a different century on a different continent. U.S. anti-Semitic incidences have skyrocketed 360% since October 7th. Between October 7th and January 7th alone, the Anti-Defamation League has recorded 3,283 anti-Semitic incidents, including harassment, vandalism, physical assaults. And just outside of my district, Paul Kessler was bludgeoned in the head and bludgeoned to death by an anti-Israel protester. Recent polling from the American Jewish Committee found that 93% of Jews in this country think that anti-Semitism is a problem, and 87% think that it's gotten worse since October 7th. Yet some refuse to listen. That especially is happening in campuses across this country. Too often, university administrators have failed to protect their Jewish students. At Columbia University, leaked text messages show how administrators were mocking a panel on anti-Semitism while it was happening. At Yale, a Jewish student was assaulted by encampment protesters. At Reed College, a Jewish students had their mezuzah torn down and were struck with a rock through their dorm room. Just this week, a man was arrested for throwing a rock in the face of a Jewish Columbia student. The list goes on and on. Now, you can't fight anti-Semitism, particularly on campuses, if you can't define it. And so many are engaging in anti-Semitism and claiming that it's not anti-Semitism. If you are dedicated to fighting it, you have to define it. America should use the same standard for evaluating its own campuses that the State Department has been using for a decade and a half in looking at global anti-Semitism. The same standard that we use in criticizing or evaluating the University of Bucharest should be used for Columbia University. That is the IHRA definition. And the most controversial part of that definition says that when you call for the expulsion or death of every Jew living between the river and the sea, that is anti-Semitic. That shouldn't even be in question. If, God forbid, a member were to come to this floor, grab this microphone, and shout, "Death to Albania," would anyone doubt that that member was anti-Albanian? When you call for the destruction and ethnic cleansing of the only Jewish majority country in the world, is there any doubt that that is anti-Semitic? Now, there are some that oppose adopting this definition because they say it deals with free speech. Keep in mind, fortunately or unfortunately, homophobic speech, racist speech, and anti-Semitic speech enjoy substantial First Amendment protection. We should adopt a definition of anti-Semitism and then use that to evaluate and use our free speech rights to comment on the anti-Semitic speech being screamed on campuses across this country. Students are entitled to the protection of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That says that you cannot interfere with their education because of their race or national origin. I have battled for 20 years 3 or 4 different administrations' Department of Education, and we now have it clear, as we had it clear, then they revoked it, and then it made it clear again, that Title VI applies to Jewish students. It may say race and national origin, and people can debate whether Judaism and the Jewish people are a people or a national or a religion or a civilization. That issue's been handled. But what campuses have got to do is follow Title VI if they're going to receive any federal aid. And they are not. And their method for ignoring the civil rights law is to refuse to define anti-Semitism. Let us hope that this Department of Education will take its responsibilities seriously, that this Department of Education will go that last step from saying that they're using the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism to say that they actually publish it as their definition of anti-Semitism. That's a slight step. And let us hope that university administrators will protect Jewish students just as the National Guard was used to protect African American students many decades ago when they entered campus.